All right. Thank you to our moderator, Sarah Arani, with the department's Solid Training Program. Welcome and Happy New Year to all of you. This is Patrick Durray, Chief of the Bureau of Automotive Repair, and I'm very pleased to be able to conduct our first of the year BAR Advisory Group meeting. We've had several others, a couple actually last year, after having to suspend our April scheduled meeting for 2020. So happy that we're able to continue holding these meetings with all of you, because we have a lot of important business going on despite the pandemic that needs your attention, your input and feedback, and we couldn't survive and we couldn't conduct our business without these very important meetings. So I'm glad we're able to hold them in the virtual format. Nothing obviously replaces the face-to-face in-person connections and the network opportunities from a meeting that we can do in person, but this is a good substitute, and we'll continue to do them as we are as required in order to get through this pandemic right now. I know this last year has been a challenging one for most of us, if not all of us, on a very personal as well as professional level, and I'm really pleased with the work of our staff to continue to do the work and get the job done despite all of the challenges that they face, both at home with schooling their children, taking care of loved ones, and just making sure that they themselves were safe and healthy and could continue to do the work that is expected and required of us as public servants for the state of California. So I'm very pleased with all of our staff, and we have some really excellent presentations on some of the great accomplishments in the last year, 2020, and some of the goals looking forward to the remainder of this current year, 2021. So without further ado, I'd like to begin that presentation, but I forgot two important announcements. One is to introduce all of our BAR Advisory Group members, and I will do that right now. On the call, or on the WebEx call, which is also, by the way, being webcast for those who are listening in outside of the WebEx format. Certainly don't want to forget about our participants through our webcast option. So here are our BAR Advisory Group meeting participants. Louis Anapolsky with Knox, Lemon, Anapolsky and Shrimp LLP. Jeffrey Cox with the Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association / Motorist Assurance Program. Gary Conover with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association.
Good morning.
Good morning. Steve Sharp, who is also with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association. And the reason that I have two representatives from some of these associations is we do allow for each association to have an alternate member. And so as not to exclude anyone in this virtual format, we will have participation both from the primary member as well as an alternate member in some cases. Rick Escalambri, who is an alternate member representing the California Automotive Teachers.
Morning, Pat.
Good morning. Johan Gallo with the California Automotive Business Coalition.
Morning, everyone.
Johan, I think your volume might be down a little bit. I can hear you, but very faintly. Bud Rice, an alternate member, also with the California Automotive Business Coalition.
Morning.
Good morning, Bud. David Robinette with ICAR, which is the Inter-Industry oh boy, I'm going to mess it up, Dave. Could you please spell it out? It should be spelled out on my list, and it isn't. I've got it somewhere.
It is the Inter-Industry Conference on Auto Collision Repair.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have this spelled out on my checklist next time. George Ritz with the California Automotive Teachers. Megan McKernan with the Automobile Club of Southern California. Hello, Megan. Tim Chang, an alternate member also with the Automobile Club of Southern California. Anthony Bento, who is with the California New Car Dealers Association.
Good morning, Patrick. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Anthony is our newest alternate member representing and standing in for Alicia Reinhardt, who has taken on a new position within the association, as I understand it. So we're happy to have Anthony taking over for Alicia, and standing in for I guess on a more permanent basis now. Nikki Ayers with the Independent Automotive Professionals Association. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi, Pat. How are you?
Good, thank you. Jack Maladonna, representing the California Auto Body Association.
Good morning, Pat.
Hello, Jack. David Kusa with the Automotive Service Council of California.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, David. Vince Gregory with AAA Northern California.
Good morning, Pat.
Hi, Vince. And Joanna Johnson with the Automotive Oil Change Association.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joanna. I wanted to let everyone know before we begin our presentations, one other important announcement is after having our offices closed for many months now, we will be lifting, with the lifting of the regional stay-at-home order, all Bureau of Automotive Repair offices will be reopened to the public beginning February 1st, this coming Monday. Offices will resume their normal hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and of course excluding all state holidays. And we're going to continue to adhere to all state guidelines and prevention practices to make sure that we safeguard the health and safety of all of our employees and visitors. But we are happy that we're going to be finally opening up our offices once again. And we'll continue to keep you updated as to any changes to that plan, but that's where we are and that's where we stand right now. Any information relating to the pandemic and our operations, the entire situation, I guess you could look up on our website if you want the most up-to-date information. Our update about our programs and our operations relative to the pandemic is available at the BAR website at www.bar.ca.gov. And we also put out regular information through social media, Facebook and Twitter, for example. Any questions about that before we jump into our presentations? You can simply raise your hand. We will do that. I think we've already practiced this exercise with many of you in a practice session about a week ago. So I don't see any hands raised. So I'll move into our presentations. Think of anything else I might have left off before I jump into it. I think that's about it. Oh, I will say that we did have one presenter on your agenda who will not be able to join us today. We've had some fairly violent storms up here in Northern California, for those of you who are not in the Sacramento area, and we're without power in a number of locations. And our one presenter who is without power and won't be able to join us is Jennifer Zins, representing the Car Care Council. That's agenda item number 6, the Cash in the Can Outreach Program presentation. So we'll move that to our April meeting. So we were already fairly pressed for time, we thought, with the very ambitious schedule that we had planned out for you today. But that will certainly relieve some of the pressure. But we'll still have a lot on our agenda today. All right, let's jump into our first presentation from the Department of Consumer Affairs. I'd like to welcome Mary Catherine or Mary Kate Cruz-Jones with the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office, and she will be giving us an update from the department. You will see it on your agenda as DCA News and Updates. Welcome and good morning, Mary Kate.
Good morning. Good morning, members.
Mary Kate, if I could ask, and this is true of all presenters, and I apologize for interrupting. I meant to mention this. If you could, just for the transparency issue that I really like is, because we're not meeting in person, to be able to have our cameras on while at least you're presenting. I'm not asking necessarily to have that done while you're listening to a presentation, but if you've got a question as a bar advisory group member, it's nice, I think, for anyone to be able to identify the name with a face, including myself, which I've got my camera rolling the entire meeting. But if I could ask each of our presenters and participants while they're at least speaking to have the camera rolling, and then at all other times when you're not speaking, make sure the microphone is muted so that we don't get any background interference. Thank you very much for observing this request to the best you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members. I'm Mary Catherine or Mary Kate Cruz-Jones from Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to provide a department update to your Bureau. As you all know, COVID-19 has affected every aspect of our work. In response to public health guidance and state and regional stay-at-home orders, state offices closed to the public beginning December 7th, 2020. Just this past Monday, January 25th, the California Department of Public Health lifted the regional stay-at-home orders statewide, and counties will return to the following restrictions in the blueprint for a safer economy. With the lifting of the orders, DCA programs will reopen any closed state offices and reestablish all services no later than February 1st, 2021. However, the administration continues to set a goal for at least 75% of employees to telework, and programs should continue that approach to the extent possible. Maximizing telework will help reduce COVID transmission risk for all employees. Public health measures such as distancing, face covering, and frequent hand washing are required for those employees who cannot telework. Thank you to your staff who have been working so hard to maintain excellent customer service and protect the public throughout these challenging times. I would also like to let you know about two exciting new initiatives launched by DCA Director Kirkmeyer for 2021 to enhance DCA services to all boards and bureaus. The first is an Executive Officer and Bureau Chief Cabinet. This is a group of board and bureau executives, and they will maintain regular communication, provide feedback and information to DCA, and assist with special projects that will impact all boards and bureaus. The second is the Enlighten Licensing Program. This project is being formed to utilize licensing subject matter experts within the entire Department of Consumer Affairs. The project will help individual boards and bureaus streamline and make their licensing processes more effective and efficient by utilizing best practices, information technology, and cost-saving measures. These two new initiatives are just kicking off, and we will keep you posted on their work and impacts. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help, and if there is anything we can do to assist, please reach out. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary Kate. Excellent update from the department. I forgot to mention that while we are, and I'm glad you reminded me, while we are open to the public on February 1st, we will be continuing to maintain a very strong focus on teleworking. We have been doing so throughout the pandemic, and despite our offices being open to the public, we will still observe the 75% goal, if not greater. I think we're well above that in most of our offices. We have many field offices throughout the state, as well as our headquarters office. So, yeah, thank you for that reminder. Any questions or comments for Mary Kate from the advisory group? I see a hand raised by Jack Maladona.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I bring to your attention a piece of legislation that was recently introduced, AB 294, which is a significant piece of legislation that you should be aware of and wanted to make sure DCA was on top of. It basically will create a whole new board, a towing and storage board within the Department of Consumer Affairs to oversee and enforce towing and storage issues. The bill itself is drafted very broadly, and it captures automotive repair dealers, auto repair shops that charge ancillary storage. And so this potentially can impact not only the ARDs, because they're already regulated by the BAR, because it's so, again, the bill is so so broadly written, where it throws in automotive repair dealers with separate entities, these towing and storage companies that deal primarily with CHP and city contracts and that sort of thing. They're two different companies. And the concern is that this would have a negative impact on consumers out there who may wish to file a complaint with an automotive repair dealer. And there could be some potential confusion out there, because now they'll have two regulatory agencies to deal with, and that can create a bureaucratic ping pong effect. They won't know where to go. So it's drafted, like I said, overly broad in my opinion, poorly drafted. It also would impact automotive repair dealers by prohibiting them from charging reasonable storage rates, which was enacted only a couple of years ago, and would force auto repair shops to have to, again, fall into this category of towing and storage, where they would be their storage rates would be capped based on CHP contracts. So it has a significant impact, and I wanted to bring it to your attention because I know that this will impact about 36,000 or so automotive repair dealers. We believe that that the current law that oversees automotive repair dealers right now, currently, it works effectively. BAR regulates them. They have the jurisdiction, and there's no need for this separate board to encompass automotive repair dealers. So anyway, I wanted to bring it to your attention. It's significant, and it's very important to the industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, for raising that issue. We have it on our agenda as part of the legislation and regulations update, so we'll give an update as to a quick summary of the bill as it was recently introduced just last week. In fact, after we had already posted our presentations, I can't remember the exact date. I think it was the January 15th or 16th of the month that bill was introduced. So we had to update this legislation and regulations update presentation to include a slide on that bill. So thank you very much for giving a heads up to the department, as I have also done. But I'm glad they could hear it from the industry. I know there might be some out there wondering, automotive repair dealers, how are they in the business of storing vehicles? Well, they aren't normally. There are at least a couple of instances where that might come up when a automotive repair contract isn't even going to be contemplated. In a total loss situation, the vehicle's been so severely damaged it won't ever be repaired. And then certainly we have repair situations where the contract has been fulfilled and the repairs have been performed, and then the vehicle is sometimes left at the shop for an extended period of time. Not sure why consumers do that, but that does happen in some cases. And so after that contract has been fulfilled, obviously, those auto repair facilities need to move those vehicles, and when they can't, there are needs. I assume that they feel the need to make sure that those charges for the storage of that vehicle, that unplanned storage of the vehicle, and potentially fulfill a lien if the vehicle is never picked up, but and the bill never paid. Anyway, so that's why I wanted to give you some perspective on why we might see some storage rate in an automotive repair setting. Any questions, further questions or comments for Mary Kate? All right, thank you, Mary Kate. Very happy to have you join us, and please feel free to stick around for the duration of the meeting or as long as you can. We'd love to, if you want to interject with anything, certainly happy to entertain any questions or comments from you relative to our presentations as well. All right, now we'll load up our next presentation, we might.
All right, this is the moderator. I will pass over presenter status to Lucy.
All right, I want to just make a mention that Holly O'Connor, who was going to do a joint presentation with Lucy, apparently also has been impacted by the storms and is without power. So it sounded like we just found out a few moments ago that we lost her for this meeting, and it's going to be strictly Lucy giving the update. So welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucy Sarkisian, and I'll be starting off with the legislation. A couple of important dates to keep in mind. December 7th was kind of the first day the new cycle began, the new 2-year cycle began, and since then it's just kind of been an introduction of new bills. On January 11th, the legislature reconvened officially, and then on January 22nd was the last day to submit bills to the Office of, I think, Legislative Affairs or Leg Council. And then 5th will be the last day for bills to be introduced. Just kind of before we get into some of the newer bills, I wanted to touch upon chaptered legislation. SB 346, it's statutes from 2010, the motor vehicle brake friction materials, and kind of specifically beginning January 1st, just a couple days or earlier this year, now it prohibits the sale of motor vehicle brake friction materials containing more than 5% copper by weight. And then beginning January 1st, 2025, this bill would prohibit the sale of motor vehicle brake friction materials exceeding 0.5% copper by weight. A violation of these provisions would be subject to a civil fine of up to $10,000. And a little bit later today on the agenda, there will be a presentation from the Department of Toxic Substance Control to go more in detail about this bill. Okay, so for 2021, we have two particular bills that we'll talk about today, AB 220, the smog check exemption, and AB 294, the Vehicle Towing and Storage Act, which you just kind of heard a little bit more information on. So for AB 220, this was introduced January 11th of this year, and this bill exempts all motor vehicles manufactured prior to 1983 from smog check. So the exemption currently applies to pre-1976 vehicles. So we would be changing this to 1983. And then the next bill we have is AB 294, the Vehicle Towing and Storage Act. This was introduced the 21st of January, and essentially it's establishing a 9-member vehicle storage and tow board within DCA to issue permits, to maintain a public database of permit holders, and resolve disputes and make determinations with complaints relating to tow and storage of vehicles. And then also this board would enforce the Act's provisions. The bill repeals existing law that deemed storage fees reasonable if they are comparable to storage related rates and fees charged by other facilities in the same locale, but instead, the way it's written is that the towing and storage fees are deemed reasonable if they do not exceed those fees and rates charged for similar services provided in the same geographical organization area established by the CHP. This bill also adds that the board has authority to include information in the towing and storage fees and access notice. The notice and the permit that, if this is passed, the licensees would obtain must be posted in plain view of the public and at facilities that charge for towing and or storage. ARDs that do not provide the towing services, as we kind of briefly talked about, are exempt from the notice posting requirements. And then if there are any penalties, or establishes the penalties for violations of up to $10,000. Okay, any questions before I switch over to regulations? So Holly and I have been working on 9 regulatory packages thus far. The first one is the rehabilitation criteria for licensure. This was started initially because of AB 2138 from 2018. Currently, this regulation package the regulation package and the final statement of reasons is currently under OIL review, and hopefully the next steps would be for OIL to adopt the regulatory package. The other package we have is the smog check equipment security and fraud prevention. This regulatory package required the use of biometric and web camera devices when performing a smog check, among other things. And there was a public workshop held on October 22nd of last year and is currently undergoing DCA informal review. The STAR program is the other regulatory package that we have, and it's currently undergoing DCA formal review. Next we have is the smog check repair assistance. And this was the regulatory package that we had an emergency regulation that was approved by OIL and became effective on August 31st of 2020. Currently, it's been submitted to DCA for formal review on January 5th of this year. So we are awaiting feedback and comments. Next we have is the laws and regulations training. This regulatory package is right now at agency. It's under review as of January 13th. So it's still undergoing its initial formal review before we take on the next step and begin comment period, the 45-day comment period. Next is the applications update. Currently, we're waiting for this regulatory package to address some of the DCA legal issues. Once those are addressed, then we will move forward. The next regulatory package we have is the BAR certified training providers, making requirements for certification of smog check training providers consistent with the current licensing requirements. BAR is currently working to address DCA legal concerns on this package. The other regulatory package we have is the brake and lamp certification program. And currently BAR is working to address DCA legal concerns on this regulatory package. And next we have is the auto body equipment and supplemental restraint systems. This regulatory package requires auto body repair shops to have access to all repair, testing, and measuring equipment and current reference materials necessary to diagnose, section, replace, or repair structural damage. Additionally, this regulatory package would require that all auto body repair equipment meets current trade standards for the work being performed. Currently, it's undergoing DCA informal review. So once we receive that back, we'll see if we move to the next phase, which would be formal review. And that's all.
Thank you, Lucy. I thought I'd clarify one of your slides, number 12 in particular, before we take any questions. Yeah, that emergency regulation is in effect, obviously. It was adopted in August of 31st last year. It will expire in June of this year. Emergency regulations only have a limited duration. So we have to either end the program or continue the program with the new regulations. And obviously, we would like to continue the program and make those emergency regulations permanent. That's why the permanent rulemaking process that we're working on is currently under review. I just want to make sure that that was clear to everyone. Let's open it up for questions from the Bar Advisory Group members. I see Rick Escalambre has his hand up. Rick?
Yeah, Pat, let me get my, think it's on. There we go. Question, what is the amendment to the STAR eligibility criteria? On 11.
Well, I can tell you one of the key criteria. If you can go to that slide, there you are. Thank you, Lucy. Currently, for those familiar with the STAR program, stations can get in without any track record, meaning they don't have to have a follow-up pass rate score, or any of their technicians have a score. So we're going to require a score by someone in that kind of that chain of command with respect to eligibility under that one standard. That's one key area where stations without any track record, without any history, without any score whatsoever, or any of their technicians can get into the program and slip into the program without any proven record or track record in performing smog inspection.
Okay. Good change.
Thank you. There may be a couple others. That's the most significant one, as I recall, off the top of my head. Bud Rice, I see your hand raised.
Yes, hi. I wanted to talk about AB 220. I guess I hadn't heard of any studies that were done that discussed what the emission rates were for those vehicles, because I've always been under the impression that the older vehicles cause most of the smog. And if you're going to now exempt vehicles, that are, relatively speaking, newer and newer, from 76 now moving up to 1983, it would seem as though there's probably a large segment of that testing pool that are out on the roads now that could be considered to be heavy polluters. And I've kind of always been of the thought that the older the cars are, maybe they ought to be tested more often, not less often, and certainly not in a pool to be tested never. So that kind of bothers me a little bit, that as cars get older, we're just going to drop them out when again, my thoughts have always been the older they get, the dirtier they get. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. We haven't obviously taken a position on this or any of the bills that are out there. We only have 2 listed on our tracking list here, but yeah, there are obviously concerns that would potentially be raised with regard to exempting vehicles that are, necessary for us to meet our state air quality goals. And I don't know. I hadn't heard why 1983 was picked, and I'm not aware of any analysis or study. But certainly the issues that you raised would obviously be looked at by our partners at the California Air Resources Board with respect to emissions impact and our ability to meet our air quality goals. Thank you for that comment. Johan Gallo.
Good morning. I wanted to follow up on Bud's comments regarding the issue on AB 220. And the concern that a lot of our members have is they're continuing to be asked to make a further investment in equipment. We're going to be upgrading the DAD system, adding the biometrics and the video camera. And then all of a sudden, we're going to take more vehicles out of the fleet. So I just wanted to voice our members' concerns over all of this because they continue to make investments in a shrinking population.
Point well taken. Thank you very much for making that, Johan. Bud, your hand is still raised. Another question or comment?
No, sorry about that. I'll bring it back.
Oh, that's all right. Any other questions or comments regarding Lucy's presentation? All right, we will open it up for public comment. I see one, Jean Lopez. I'll ask the moderator to open it up for public comment.
All right, this is the moderator. At the direction of the Bureau Chief, I've opened up the Q&A feature. Oh, actually, let me actually hit the Q&A button. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this agenda item, please click on that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and please type, "I would like to make a comment," and then hit send. I believe we are also responding to raised hands in the attendees, so I will go ahead and unmute Jean Lopez's mic and allow him to speak. Just as a, oh, and he also commented. Just as a quick reminder, please keep your comments to around 2 minutes. I will give you a warning at 30 seconds, and if at that point you can please wrap up your comment, that would be wonderful. Jean, I will be unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chief. Good morning, Advisory Board. And Lucy, thank you for your presentation. I'd just like to concur with Jack Molendanoff on AB 294 in that ARDs shouldn't be part of that assembly bill, simply because we're not in the towing and storage business. We're in the collision repair business. And oftentimes our facilities just don't allow, we don't have the square footage to keep a car that has been repaired or that has been totaled, for more than just a few days, simply because we don't have the capacity to store vehicles. And also, Lucy, on your slide regarding equipment for auto body shops, I'm not sure if we need to add OEM constraints. And the reason I bring that up is, for example, on late model Hondas, 2017 and newer, facilities cannot use your typical frame machine to perform any structural damage because Honda requires that we don't use the pinch weld clamps where you would typically clamp onto a vehicle to perform structural repairs. They have specific loading areas and specific equipment that is required to perform any structural damage repairs. And perhaps Dave Robinette can speak to that, being familiar with the requirements for OEM. So I'm not sure if we need to have an OEM clause in there so that everyone recognizes the value and the requirement of particular equipment to perform particular repairs on those vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean, for the comment. Certainly take that under advisement as we're moving this regulation package forward. Other comments from the public? Moderator, do you see any others?
This is the moderator. I do not see any further comments from members of the public. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, you may do so. And I'll circle back one last time to see if there are any further questions or comments from the advisory group members.
Patrick?
Yes?
Dave Robinette from iCar, just responding to Gene's quick comment about equipment necessary for repairs. He is correct. There are some vehicles that traditional frame equipment, at least in the past, is inadequate to, but I believe the standard that was reached as far as in the supplement that I was seeing here on the presentation was to be sure that whatever equipment was necessary per the vehicles that were being worked on would be required by the shops to have those on on site. And so if it meant a different kind of frame machine or a different type of attaching process or equipment, that would still qualify as needful in the shop, but not necessarily that they had to go about not repairing the vehicles because they just simply didn't have the right equipment. They needed to repair the vehicles with the right equipment regardless. So I appreciated Gene's comment about that. I think that the program here establishes that the shop just needs to have the right equipment, whatever that is, based on the car manufacturer's recommendations.
Yes, that's my recollection as well with the draft regulation. Obviously, there'll be ample time to comment on any deficiencies with it. We've workshopped this package with all of you to get that sort of input. I know both you, Dave, and Gene have participated in that process. So we'll continue to, as we move this regulation package forward, rely on your expertise to tell us where there might be some deficiencies. But we're not quite there yet, but we hope to be there very soon.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments relative to this presentation? All right, moderator, you may close out this agenda. Thank you very much, Lucy, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
And we will load up the next presentation, the 2020-21 program updates, which are actually 8 presentations in one. So I will ask all of you, when we were meeting in person last year when we did this in January 2020, I think we allowed for questions in after each of the subparts of this presentation. And it kind of broke up the flow of the entire presentation and got a little disruptive, in my opinion. So I think we're going to allow all of the presenters to speak, and we'll hand off the baton or the microphone, in this case, to each presenter, one after the other, until we're through with the 8th and final presentation in this slide deck. And then we'll open it up for questions from the advisory group members. So keep flag the slide that you're interested in if you want to go back to it, and we'll get that question or comment relative to that slide answered. All right, we'll begin. We're doing this in alphabetical order, beginning with program. Our first program is Audits and Roadsides branch, and Gary Goodwin with that program. Thank you very much, Gary, for being here.
Thank you, Chief Durray. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Gary Goodwin. I am a supervisor with the Audits and Roadsides branch. So for 2020, the roadsides team performed 2,766 roadside inspections. That was prior to March 16th, when roadsides was temporarily suspended due to COVID. We remain suspended at this moment. In the interim, we assisted in developing alternative data sources in the hopes to provide enough data for the reporting that's required. The gas audit unit performed 3,505 analyzer audits. We were able to expand geographically the audits statewide. We were also able to, in conjunction with bar licensing, develop procedures for transmitting audit information automatically over to licensing records. The government fleets unit implemented new business processes designed to streamline the workflow. We also initiated 434 non-compliance actions and consequently managed to achieve a 99.9% compliance rate amongst government agencies. We developed the initial draft of the remote onboard diagnostic regulations. If adopted, these would replace the existing continuous testing pilot program. For 2021, the branch's goals with roadsides, we are just looking to safely return to gathering roadside data. We are prepared for that, and we'll resume roadside data data gathering as soon as we can safely do so in the COVID environment. We hope to be able to gather sufficient data for the annual smog check evaluations and reports. We are also going to continue to develop safety measures, including test site speed reduction protocols. So we will go back to testing and developing those once we're able to get back out there. The gas audit unit has a 2021 goals of increasing the total gas audits performed. We monitor several cycle time metrics and look to improve those. We also look to implement the procedures that we developed for the records transmission to bar licensing. Within the fleets unit, we are working to enhance the computer application that we currently use in order to support the new business processes that have been developed. We are developing inspection procedures for government agencies that are enrolled in the continuous testing program, and we will continue to support the passage and implementation of the remote onboard diagnostic program regulations. So thank you for the opportunity, and I will turn it over to the next presenter.
Moderator, do you need to load the next presentation, the next update, program update?
This is the moderator. It should be the next slide.
Okay.
Moderator, this is Linda Janssen, and I'm not able to move the slideshow to the next slide.
Do you see the, when you hover your mouse over to your left-hand side, there should be a little bar that shows up, and it has arrows that'll let you advance.
Oops, wrong direction, but yes, I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Janssen. I'm the Staff Services Manager over BAR's Administration Branch. Our 2020 accomplishments include successfully responding to the emerging pandemic with the stay-at-home orders that were issued in March 2020. We instituted telework agreements at that time while continuing delivery of our services without interruption. We responded to requests for daily, weekly, and monthly COVID-19 statistics, cost tracking, and labor hour tracking. We purchased emergency supplies such as a 6-foot distancing floor stickers, hand sanitizers, disinfectants, plexiglass sneeze guards, and we established contracts for deep cleaning services in response to a positive COVID-19 test result. Our accomplishments continued. We did install 16 electric vehicle chargers to support the Governor's Executive Order B1612. Those chargers were installed in the San Jose field office, 12 of them, 2 in the Sacramento Technical Training Unit, and 2 in the Jurupa Valley roadside office. And you can see that the zero emission vehicle fleet purchase requirements are 30% by fiscal year 2021 and 50% by fiscal year 24-25. Our goals for 2021 are to meet or exceed our established percentages for small business purchases, which is 25%, and disabled veteran business enterprise purchases, which is a 3% threshold. We will continue to replace our gas-only fleet vehicles with zero-emission vehicles, and we're planning for continued telework requirements, including the reduction of office space footprint by hoteling. And what that means is shared workspaces utilized by several individuals working staggered shifts, and also through lease negotiations to downsize our office space footprint. And Here is my contact information.
All right, next up. Looks like Consumer Assistance Program. Yes?
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Fidel Reyes, and I'm a program manager in the Consumer Assistance Program. So in 2020, CAP's accomplishments were, in general, we implemented emergency regulations to assist consumers with up to $1,200.
This is the moderator. Can I quickly interrupt? Fidel, it's a little hard to hear you. You may want to get a little bit closer to your microphone. Could you try speaking now?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Okay. I hope I'm not too close to the screen here. I'll start over. So I'm Fidel Reyes, and I'm a program manager in the Consumer Assistance Program. So in 2020, accomplishments were, in general, that we implemented emergency regulations to provide consumers with up to $1,200 in spot check repair assistance. We assisted CARB and local air districts on retire and replace programs. Some of our process improvements were that we updated our website to improve the usability and accessibility. We also updated our call center to provide our callers with, well, basically information of number of callers in queue, and also provided them a callback option. Our Cars for Schools program, we currently have 13 vehicles redirected to schools, and we have publicized our program on our public website. Continuing with our accomplishments program highlights, we have some of CAP's highlights where we retired 52,948 vehicles. We repaired 1,907 vehicles, and we reduced an estimated 7,421 tons of emissions. Some of our customer service accomplishments, we processed over 137,000 applications, handled over 140,000 consumer and 13,000 repair station calls. And we have currently an 87% utilization of our online application. And CAP's 2021 goals, to provide applicants the ability to upload digital copies of supporting documentation when applying online. We hope to adopt as permanent emergency repair assistance regulations due to expire on June 30th, 2021. And to add repair assistance station, basically CAP station to our auto shop locator. And that would be on our public website.
All right, let's move to our next presentation. Thank you very much, Fidel. Is it Mark Isaacs? Yes, Mark Isaacs with our engineering and research branch. Welcome.
Yes,
Mark.
good morning. Thank you, Pat. My name is Mark Isaacs. I'm a senior quality engineer with the engineering research branch. So here are some of our 2020 accomplishments. The first two are two of our annual reports in support of AB 2289 and the US EPA annual report. Both are available on our website. The next one is certificate blocking and DMV registration holds. What this is an automated detection of inappropriate data from the vehicle's OBD system during an OIS inspection and will not allow a certificate to be issued, thus requiring a referee inspection. The second item here is similarly, DMV registration holds are used to stop a vehicle's registration until the emission control systems are returned to a proper operational and legal status. Next, this is a big one. We added vehicle emissions warranty, safety, inspector advice messages to our BAR OIS system. The BAR OIS now displays vehicle emission warranty information for PZ vehicles where free emission control system repairs may be possible within the warranty period. Next, the BAR OIS also displays safety recall information, so consumers are advised of open or incomplete safety recalls like dangerous airbags on their vehicles. Finally, the BAR OIS displays inspector advice messages when certain vehicles require a unique or abnormal inspection procedure. We've also expanded the use of dynamic test modes in the BAR OIS. The OIS now randomly applies a dynamic test mode for enhanced fraud collections. We're just collecting data at this point for possible enrollment later. Also, we have biometric regulations that have been drafted and presented for public comment and are pending DCA legal review. BAR also develops an enrollment software package that will be used to collect small check inspector biometric data, possibly in mid-2021. We have also updated specifications for a new data acquisition device called DAD 2.0 and has been drafted and submitted to DCA Legal for informal review. The DAD will provide BAR more data collection flexibility in the future. BAR also provided DMV with analysis tools in an effort to address DMV business partner smog bypass issues. Slide. So our 2021 goals. We plan to implement a process called Cal ID CDN Unsupported Monitoring Program. Basically, this means we will begin failing vehicles for tampered software starting July 2021. Again, the biometric reg package. We're planning to collect a license inspector biometric data and add it to the OAS. Also, we're going to implement remote access for BAR OAS. We're planning to add remote access capability to the BAR OAS where users can interact with BAR representatives using webcam. Even if they have questions about a certain particular vehicle, we can help them out. Again, we adopted DAD 2.0 specification reg package. We've got a workshop coming up on that. Update DAD software to connect with newer vehicles. BAR is working on DAD software updates to communicate with some newer model year vehicles. And finally, this was mentioned earlier by Lucy, we are developing brake and lamp electronic certification platform. BAR is drafting regulations and software development plans to make brake and lamp inspection certification issuance electronic, so no more paper certs. And then finally, with the BAR 97, BAR will begin collecting additional fraud detection data from the BAR 97 devices. Again, my name is Mark Isaacs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mark. We'll move to our next presentation, Gilbert Sanchez. Welcome, Gilbert.
Good morning.
Yeah, how's things in Fresno?
Oh, they're great, except for the wet weather here. We're okay. Hi, my name is Gilbert Sanchez, Advisory Group. I'm a Program Manager 1 in BAR's Field Operations and Enforcement Division. And let me move to the next slide here. Oop, went the wrong way. Okay, I want to, first of all, I'd like to begin with some overview of our 2020 accomplishments, starting with some program statistics. There was a total of 298 administrative filings. We had 52 district attorney referrals. We had 194 smog citations issued. In addition, there was 532 unlicensed delinquent citations issued. We had 456 conferences conducted. And there was a total of 11,959 consumer complaints received in 2020. We inspected actually 4,917 ARD installations, and we conducted 188 right of rec presentations. Our business processes for 2020 included collaborating with local, state, and federal agencies to combat the use of smog check defeat devices. We also worked with the Attorney General's Office on implementation of AB 2138 licensure requirements, which relates to individuals with prior criminal convictions. And we enhanced the use of virtual communication technology and positioned analytical staff within field offices to continued efforts of ensuring consistency in all aspects of field operations. And moving forward with our goals for this year is completing the development of procedures to support the implementation of biometric smog check security enhancements. We will be continuing our efforts to identify and block certificates for tests conducted with smog check defeat devices, and we'll also continue to collaborate with local, state, and federal agencies to combat the use of these defeat devices. Another 2021 goal is to proactively identify emergency trends within the automotive repair industry to address these trends through the regulatory process, such as we're going to be updating regulations to address advancements in collision repair restrictions as it pertains to accepted trade standards, supplemental restraints, and advanced driver assistance systems. Also in the area of brake and lamp, working towards the modernization of the program and to incorporate an electronic inspection platform and issuance of electronic certificates. This would be similar to the smog check program. And finally, continue to identify and address unlicensed auto repair. And that's going to conclude my presentation.
Very well done. Thank you very much, Gilbert. I noticed that the complaint volume is down. I'm certain that that was an impact due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it's a little down. I think it was about 1,000. Yeah, about 1,000.
Yeah. Normally, when we see upwards of 15,000, I think it was down to 11,000 last year, according to the slide. All right, we'll move to our next presentation. Thank you so much, Gilbert.
You're welcome.
And next up is Nick Sears.
How's it going, everybody? I am Nick Sears. I'm a staff services analyst in the licensing program for BAR. Before I get to our accomplishments and goals, I'm going to go over some statistics here for the licensing program. It's going to involve the initial applications received, licenses issued, and licenses renewed. So we'll go through this pretty quick here. As for initial applications received, automotive repair dealer applications are going to be a total of 2,695. We have brake and lamp stations totaling 199. We have brake and lamp adjusters totaling 1,396 initial applications. As for test and repair smog check stations, there's 297 that have been received. Test only is going to be totaling 232, and repair only smog checks are going to be 5. The smog check inspector count for initial applications is a total of 1,161, and smog check repair technicians totals 576. And as for the STAR station program, the total applications received for that was 553. Moving into the licenses issued, out of the ones received, we have automotive repair dealers. We have issued 2,303 licenses, and licenses also include registrations and certificates, so that's part of it. Brake and lamp stations issued 176, brake and lamp adjusters 836, smog check test and repair stations licensed were 328, test only stations 227, the repair only stations 5 again. The smog check inspector licenses that were issued totaled 721, the repair technicians 321, and STAR station again 327 certificates were issued. Moving into the renewed licenses, we totaled 30,231 for automotive repair dealers, 1,575 for brake and lamp stations, 560 for brake and lamp adjusters were renewed, 4,064 for test and repair smog check stations, 1,719 for test only stations, and 33 were renewed for the repair only stations. Moving on to the inspectors, for renewals, 5,584 were renewed, and as for the repair technicians, 2,764. And as you can see, it's STAR stations, there's no renewal for that. If we move on to the next page, we're going to be going over the total statistics for 2020, what we currently have in population. Automotive repair dealer, 34,153. Brake and lamp stations totaling 1,820. Brake and lamp adjusters, we currently have 2,203. Smog check test and repair stations, 4,660. 1,989 for the test only. We have 39 repair only stations. We have a total of 13,775 smog check inspectors, 6,929 repair technicians, and currently there are 3,728 star stations. Now we can go ahead and move on to the accomplishments for 2020. We have transitioned paper processes to digital in support of modernization initiatives and remote work opportunities. This includes all applications are scanned, processed, and archived digitally, and we're nearing the 100% mark for electronic submissions of records to archive. We have better utilization of technology when corresponding with applicants that involves scanning, emailing, any type of back and forth with them. And they can also contact us via the bar licensing applications email at dca.ca.gov. We have extended licenses for licensees impacted by COVID-19, and we've implemented special handling procedures for applications from California wildfire victims. On to our 2021 goals. We are looking to complete conversion of all archived hard copy records to digital format, reach 100% on the electronic submissions of records to archive, continue to meet the 30-day application processing goals, which we are quite ahead of right now. We are averaging 19 days on those, and implement AB 2113, which is expedite review of initial licensure applications for refugees, asylees, and special immigrant visa holders, as well as implement SB 878, which is report average processing timeframes for licensure applications on BAR's website. So that'll be there for everybody to see. And I believe that ends it for me. All my contact information is right there. We can move on.
Thank you so much, Nick. Great job. Don Ishcomer with the Technology Services Branch, I believe, is next. Yes, Don. Good morning and welcome, Don. We need to have you unmute your speaker. Thank you. Still not hearing anything.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to put my camera on. There we go. Hi. It's from Technology Services Branch. The application development team developed an AutoShop locator, which is on the website that people can look for auto shops, smog shops, and can check their license. We continued with CalViz modifications during that time, developing license file review system, and enforcement, continued enforcement licensing modernization during the project approval lifecycle. And client services, as with everywhere else, the mad dash to get people to telework was difficult. So there was an emergency mass loaner laptop deployment that had all hands on deck getting people to telework, as well as installing virtual desktop on those that did not have laptops to work from home. And then there was a rugged tablet deployment for field representatives to have a little bit more rugged tablet out in the field. And we were able to utilize some of the returned laptops for deployment to other users that were in need for a laptop to work from home. In business technology unit, we implemented e-signature processes and including timesheets, invoices, and procurement documents. We expanded upon our DocuSign system, and we coordinated laptop and iPhone refreshes, and we're in the process of executing e-fax system throughout BAR to replace all of the physical fax machines. In the security unit, they updated the business continuity plan and created the pandemic response plan. And in customer service, they also resolved over 4,000 tickets relating to issues with computers and telecom and iPhones and things like that. In 2021, the goals in TSB are to mature our IT security posture, to prepare for the Department of the Military audit, and improve CalViz monitoring capabilities. We're making major updates to the public website, and we're implementing the enforcement licensing modernization system, the ELM system, in some format. We're going to continue to support digital workflows, deploy laptops, replace out of warranty desktops with laptops so that people will be able to telework, replacing iPhones, continue to implement the enterprise eFax solution. We'll be assessing business processing in all of our units for digital workflows for e-signature adoption. And we have plans to mature our IT asset management program with a full physical inventory, IT assets bar-wide, and developing a new plan for that. And I think that is it for me.
Thank you very much, Dawn.
You bet.
We'll move to our last of the program updates, Michelle Wolkin with the Technical Training Unit. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Again, I am Michelle Wolkin from BAR's Technical Training Unit. I'm the supervisor. And like most people, we'll start off with the Technical Training Unit's 2020 accomplishments. We developed virtual formats for internal training courses to support physical distancing and remote work environments in response to the pandemic. You know, we began this by having our Technical Training Unit staff attend really in-depth training on developing and transitioning to virtual style classes. This was important for us to make sure we were prepared for an effective and engaging virtual training environment, as well as being prepared for the technology involved in this type of training. We're completing today our first virtual program representative training academy. This is a required course for first-year enforcement program representatives. We also were able to communicate and provide access to virtual training opportunities for BAR staff through our contracted training vendors who also shifted a lot of their curriculum to virtual. Over 4,500 training courses were completed in areas including automotive technology, analytical skills, business acumen, and leadership. So many BAR staff took advantage of this available virtual training. We actually received over 5,000 proof of completion documents as we were tracking the gains of the training gains of our employees. We were still able to provide in-house technical and job required training for BAR staff. These were in areas including technical report writing, mediator techniques, smog check update, and structural damage analysis courses. We facilitated an internal work group to update our collision repair regulations. This is an ongoing work group that analyzes current collision repair regulations. It also looks towards the future in consideration of emerging technology and trends in the automotive collision repair sector. We administered computer assessments to BAR enforcement staff. So these are online skills tests to assess the general computer literacy, as well as program-specific competencies, things like Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. So we recognize that people within organizations have varying skills relating to computer technology. So the assessment results will help us in where to direct and focus the computer skills training that our staff needs. We also provided online I-car collision repair training. So iCar offered a lot of free access to some of their virtual training that many of our staff were able to take advantage of, but we were also able to procure more robust, in-depth iCar training, something we continue to do in order to enhance the knowledge and abilities of our enforcement representatives. Moving on to our 2021 goals, which we're very excited about. We have ongoing course development and administration in both virtual and in-class formats. So this is related to our internal in-house training. We recognize the value and benefits of both the virtual and in-class learning modalities, and we continue to strive in providing opportunities in both of these areas. We are continuing the expansion of contracts with training vendors to improve employee technical expertise and skill development. We are always seeking and welcoming suggestions from bar staff on outside training options that will enhance our work abilities and increase the public value that our organization can provide. The adoption of collision repair regulations is forefront for us. After workshopping changes to the auto body equipment and supplemental restraint systems regulations, we're now moving forward through they are now moving forward through the formal rulemaking process with a goal of adoption this year. The next focus of the internal collision repair work group is on amendments and modifications to auto body trade standards and regulations, auto body trade standards regulations and windshield regulations. Very exciting is this transition to DCA's learning management system, or the LMS. This is a computerized software platform that can assist in ensuring compliance with mandated training. It streamlines the training processes for DCA provided and state required courses, and it provides managers easy access to their employee training records. So DCA has been onboarding their various entities in stages, and with bar onboarding on January 15th of this year. The benefits listed above, they're only the initial abilities of the system. Over time, the LMS will also streamline the training processes within bar itself and provide a platform for tracking and administrating our own employees in training. We find this really exciting. We're really happy and pleased with DCA and Solid's efforts in getting the LMS up and running. And lastly, we have the relocation of the Sacramento Technical Training Center. We are 75% there with this relocation. The new training center is its own standalone building, and it's got about 1,200 square feet of training room space, about 2,000 square feet of office space, and over 5,000 square feet of shop or lab space. The new location is going to allow us to expand our training opportunities and capacities, as well as the technology used with our curriculum. And that wraps up the update for the technical training unit.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I think that concludes all of our program updates for 2020-2021. Great job, all of you. Those were really informative. Are there any questions or comments from the advisory group members about any of the 8 presentations that were wrapped up in that update? Oh, a couple. Well, good. I'll see Rick Escalombre. I saw your hand first.
Okay. I have a question for Mark Isaacs on the Cal ID CVN unsupported monitors changes.
Yes.
Mark, as I understand it now, currently, the information for that is being used under data check fail is being collected from previous smog inspections. Would that be safe to say that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, my question is then, going forward, is there any effort being made to match this data up to the OEM's data? Because as I see it, if a vehicle comes in 8 years down the road and they've been driving around with tampered CVN with a Cal ID that doesn't match, the only database you have, that is the initial baseline for that vehicle. So as I understand it, if it's wrong to begin with, then it will be wrong in the future if there's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take this one if that's okay. This is Garrett Torgerson with
Garrett.
Bars Engineering Department. So yeah, right now we have a multi-pronged approach going. Sorry, I'll turn on my camera for you too. But we have a multi-pronged approach going. One of them is looking at comparative data for similar vehicles There's a number of issues we deal with when confronting this type of problem because some of the vehicles we're looking at in the database have been modified. Some of them have illegal modifications. Figuring that out versus, what's real versus what's Memorex is sort of an issue we have to deal with. But right now, part of our effort is actually reaching back into the certification data that was submitted to CARB and trying to figure out which are the appropriate CAL IDs and which appropriate CVNs go with those CAL IDs. And so the part of the challenge is honestly that the data from CARB right now that we get, the data submitted by the manufacturers, is not always clean either. And so we have a major effort going right now to figure out really where the lines are. At what point are we going to say this vehicle has been illegally modified and not? And when given the opportunity where we really don't know, we're going to err on the side of leniency. So that's our approach. It's unfortunately there's no perfect way to do it. However, it's a really good way to, when we combine it with other factors. One of the factors that was included in the presentation was actually the monitor support. Now that is used in some of the determination whether or not there's fraud going on at a station, but that information is also going to be used to help determine whether or not the vehicle's computer has been modified. So in the end, we're not going to have a very clear cut, this is exactly what we do in terms of how we got the data. It's an amalgam of all these different sources that we have to come up with what we think is going to be truth. And again, if there's uncertainty, we would try to err on the side of leniency.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Garrett. And thank you, Rick, for the question. I see a hand raised by Johan Gallo with Cal ABC.
Good morning. I actually have two questions and comments, and this is directed to Mark Isaacs. The first one has to do with the impounding of vehicles, and I realize law enforcement is doing more and more to shut down these sideshows and everything and impound these vehicles. Is BAR still involved in inspecting those vehicles for modifications?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. The second question I have really deals with Nick Sears and his presentation having to do with the expedited licensure for refugees. Some of our members have voiced concern that many businesses have been waiting to get their licenses, and is this delaying their process for getting licenses processed?
I don't believe that's going to be delaying any others. It's just more of a prioritization.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you very much, Johan. Nikki Ayers, and I saw next. Nikki, welcome.
Thank you, Pat. I have a question for Nick Sears also on page 25. Do you know what the impact of the pandemic's been on the number of ARDs from last year to this year?
Let me go back to that really quick here. I can't go back to that. Can the moderator move it back to page 25? It seems like there has been a lower count for this year, but I mean, that's a little bit expected with the circumstances. It's not drastic, but it's evident in the numbers.
It hasn't been that much.
Didn't seem like it. I mean, it is there, but.
Okay, so we're 34,000 is still about the same as last year for ARDs.
I don't have the numbers from last year's in front of me right now. Okay. So I can check on that by any means. You can email me.
No, that's fine. I was wondering. I couldn't remember what last year was. So.
Yeah.
I've always roughly said around 35,000 ARDs. Now, whether that's just kind of a rough estimate, but it may be a consistent 35 and maybe seeing a little bit down, but we can compare it and look at it from last year.
Okay.
If there's any major change there.
Yeah, I just think it would be an interesting thing to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe we can have it looked up in the next few minutes. Yep. I think assistant here, Zach, is looking it up from last year. All right, Bud Rice, I see your hand up.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to make a quick comment on the information that Mark Isaacs was presenting, and it has to do with the PSEF stuff that comes out now on the smog machine. And I didn't want this to pass without making a comment that there had been numerous discussions about providing that capability, and you can all remember Charlie Peters would come up and sit down and we go round and around on this, and many of you don't know, but he'd hop a ride with me as I'd come up to Sacramento to be in those meetings, and I'd hear this PSEV story for 2 hours going up, and then I'd hear it 2 hours going back. But this is a situation where I think industry, meaning the people that get regulated, the regulators, BAR, put their heads together and came up with something that I think works. And I wanted to pat both Charlie on the back and you on the back, Pat, because I think we've had multiple instances where that information coming up on the smog machine was invaluable to our customers that have come into our locations. And I just wanted to say this was a great example of everybody kind of putting their heads together and having something work well. So I wanted to say that.
Thank you, Bud. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate all of the efforts to get our attention, yours and Charlie's, and there was a lot of work that went into it, and I certainly can't take the credit. It goes to our technical team and our engineering and research branch, as well as I think our technology services branch, working on this. It took some time. It wasn't that we weren't listening. It was more complicated than, and it took a little while longer than maybe all of us would have wanted. I did get some information about the last 2019 statistics in comparison to the 2020 statistics for the automotive repair dealers. Zach looked it up. It's 36,085. So it went down a couple thousand. That's a response to Nikki's question. All right, let's see what else we have in the queue for questions.
Hey, Pat, real quick. This is Clay Leak with the Bureau Executive Office. I just wanted to say thank you to Bud for recognizing the work that went into the PSEV enhancement. And I also wanted to point out that we are continuing to look. PSEV is not the only warranty out there, emissions warranty that's out there for consumers. So we are looking to expand that functionality and expand those capabilities as different types of warranties become available and these vehicles start coming into the program, and making sure that we're notifying consumers and prompting them for other types of warranty as well. So it's certainly a big improvement and something we're going to continue to work on in an effort to inform consumers and educate consumers and empower them to make good decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Clay, for doing that, or making that statement about our continuing work in that area. Rick Escalambre, your hand is raised again, I think, or is it still raised last time?
It's current. I had a follow-up for Garrett or any of you on this one. Is there a way on this CVN information to get this out to some of the dealerships? Here's why I'm saying it. I have dealer techs that are calling me because they're getting these vehicles referred to them as they've heard Cal ID from the referee and stuff. They're showing up at the dealer because it's the software issue. Most of the dealerships are blank. Other than a few dealerships that I've trained this, they're unaware of what CVN is, even at the factory level as far as the technician. And they're getting these vehicles not knowing exactly what the issue is. The only good thing about it is some of these techs are finally having to learn about Cal ID and CVN. There's only a few manufacturers that really promote it. I have Toyota, Chrysler guys that calling me. They have no idea what's going on. So what I'm saying is I think we're working with a blind part of the industry out there. And in the end, they're getting these cars brought to them without a clue. We've been teaching it for a long time, but I'm still seeing this as a common problem from other things I see on forums where they have no idea what this is and what to do with it. So I don't know if there's a communications issue there, training issue, what it might be, but I think the end result is they're going to see these data check fails for CVNs, and many of the dealerships are unaware what to do with it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Rick. I don't know exactly. We've seen some of this already. We've had some vehicles that come in. Specifically, one of the requirements on engine changes is that we make sure that the calibration on the replacement engine that's being swapped into a vehicle is the original calibration. And we've seen some of those issues with that same thing where the dealerships aren't exactly sure how to validate the calibration. They think they've loaded the latest thing, but there may be something the consumer put on the vehicle that they're unaware of. The problem with providing the database that we're using to detect this to industry representatives is that we then run the risk of people building workarounds where they're actually loading in the Cal ID they think we want to see, and they're loading the in some cases they may be able to spoof the CVN, and so that's the issue we're kind of fighting with right now. I don't know the best answer for that, but so we welcome your suggestions and as we try to figure out how best to deal with this. As this is starting in July, it will be a little bit more of an issue because we do see a fair number of vehicles that are modified specifically in certain makes and models. Subarus, Mustangs, F-150s, Camaros, those type of vehicles tend to be modified at a higher rate, certainly, and submodels within those categories.
Yeah, I think my big concern is getting the end person, which is the dealer tech, if they haven't received training. I remember the calls from the classes afterwards where we just learned about data check failure, and I had to inform some dealerships, this is what you need to do. So in other words, they're getting these vehicles and they're they're told, well, it's a software issue, it's this, it's that, but not enough specifics. And I don't think there's enough industry. I'm not looking for the database to be out there. I'm thinking of industry awareness for the end repair guy, especially in the dealership, to say, if you receive a vehicle for this reason, this is what you need to check. This is what you're looking for, because you need to check your manufacturer database. Because again, I've had Toyota guys, Chrysler guys, they had no clue what CVN was when we've covered it in class. And one of the labs was to go out and find those. And they said, wow, I'll have to start looking for that. But they have nothing to compare it to. But they're aware of it now. At least if a car comes in the shop, they say, okay, well, here's what we better check. Because otherwise, prior to this, they've been clueless. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's more of an education thing, I think it is, than anything else. But it is a problem because it is that blank look on their face when they got a car in and they can't repair, they don't know what to do to repair it exactly because they haven't even been aware of this information. So it comes down to training. I guess that would be the end thing, and some way of informing the industry of this issue without providing specific information like you're saying, Garrett. Just enough of awareness to say if a vehicle comes in for this reason, this is what you might want to look into.
Okay.
So this is Anthony from the California New Car Dealers. If there's any, we do have regular webinars on a variety of topics that we offer to our members. If there's anything we can do to provide assistance on this training issue, happy to talk offline to any attendees or talk during this presentation.
Anthony, I'd be interested in discussing that with you.
Fantastic. I'll reach out following the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm good.
And Anthony and Rick, thank you both. If there's any way we can be helpful with respect to the webinars, we could certainly, I think, provide someone from our engineering research branch to heighten that awareness issue. All right, let's see. Any other questions or comments from advisory group members? No, I do not see any, but I do see a hand from a member of the public, so we'll open it up for public comment. Moderator, please open it up. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and the Q&A feature is now open for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, please click on that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. In the meantime, I also see a hand raised from Gene. Oh, and he looks like he also posted a question. Gene, I'll go ahead and unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you. I have three questions, and one of them is acknowledging the Cars for Schools on slide 11. Fidel, can you speak to that, and can you let us know what type of schools receive these cars, and if there will be additional cars donated to schools?
So I think the community colleges were the ones to get the first round of vehicles from the dismantlers. Maybe one or two high schools, and currently the program has not stopped. So if somebody, one of the schools would like a vehicle, you could email us and we will steer you in the right direction.
Good, great. That was a follow-up question. Is how do we apply? How does the school apply to get some of these cars? So thank you for
So
that.
you can email us. The email address is cars for schools, CARSFORSCHOOLS at dca.ca.gov.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My next question is for Mark Isaacs. And Mark, this may be trivial on slide 16, but we here in Southern California, and certainly in the San Gabriel Valley market, have seen a rash of catalytic converter thefts. And in that, many of our customers are asking if there is the ability to put a used catalytic converter on their cars. We have one customer in a CRV. He's had his catalytic converter stolen 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you have to wonder, so are these converters being stolen for the metals that are in the converters, or are they being stolen to be put back on other cars? And so, is it possible that the used catalytic converter market be opened up for replacement?
We see that in both ways. We do know they're going to scrap yards for the metallurgical value. And also just this week, somebody posted an ad on some forum, someplace, Facebook or something like that, offering used cats for sale, obviously most likely stolen. And we alerted our enforcement about that. So it's really both.
These questions, though, I mean, this really deals with a lot of CARB policy and how they're dealing with that. I think I know we have a representative from CARB in the audience. I can't remember which. They might be better suited to taking that. Or Fred Garza, maybe he can respond with what CARB has going on right now. The big issue that we see is that certain vehicles, they're not necessarily making a new cat at the moment. The manufacturer's not supporting a replacement cat. And so that's one of the issues we're looking into right now. But I know CARB has been involved in some investigations trying to identify rings where this is going on and trying to find solutions to this problem. But we're seeing it all over the state. I mean, a lot of thefts happening. I don't see there's any way that they're going to open up the used cat market for installations on the vehicles. But in terms of replacement cats on a few models, that's been the real issue that we're seeing at this point.
Yeah. Okay, and then my third question is for Nick. Regarding the number of licensees, can you break down the auto body licenses that were available or that are out there for 2020? I know you have ARD at 34,153, but of those 34,000, how many are body shops? Oh, did I lose you? No, there. Did I lose you?
Might have. I'm not sure we have that information broken down that way, Gene, with respect to ARDs. If it's broken down, you can, on your application, you can list your primary and secondary business type. I'll have to check to see if we have that sub-coding of ARD information. It may be, I'm trying to think if it's in the presentation that's coming up later, the enforcement statistics data.
It is there, Pat.
Yes.
Oh, good.
It's in there, and you can look year over year. And I was just looking at that, and in December of 2019, There were 5,075 body shops, and let me switch screens here and see what this year is. And in this year, we have 4,958 as of December 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for coming to my rescue.
That's what I'm here for.
I just remembered it wasn't in our licensing update, but it is something we present in your ongoing quarterly handout on our statistics.
Thank you for your time. That's it for me.
Thank you, Gene. And we am going back through the advisory group, and I see a hand raised. We'll circle back with, well, did it disappear? Jack, did you have a question? Yes. There I see it. Jack Maladona.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. No, it was more of a follow-up with regard to Gene Lopez's question about the amount of body shops. Yeah, that I know that you have that information, and thank Bill for mentioning it, because that information on the amount of body shops, the total, and the names are forwarded annually to the Department of Insurance, and they post on their website for insurance companies to conduct or have that information to conduct labor rate surveys. So that's an annual thing that is worked out between the BAR and the department. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Yes, we did provide the latest information to Department of Insurance through our executive office here. Just confirmed that with Zach Richardson. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you for mentioning that, Jack. Okay, seeing none, we will close this agenda item. Thank you to all of the presenters. I thought some really good questions. I hope this is that we can make this continue to make this an ongoing feature. I think it's useful to well, certainly useful to us is to know where we've been and where we're going, and we'd like to make sure that the public and the advisory group is aware of it as well. So if there's any recommendations as far as this presentation as an ongoing feature at the beginning of each year for our January meeting, please let me know. We certainly like to refine it in any way possible, but thank you for your time. All right, we'll move to our next presentation. If we can load that one up, moderator, that's on our automated license plate reader. And Phil Heirigs with our engineering and research branch is here to give an update relative to our work with the use of automatic license plate readers, excuse me, ALPRs. Good morning,
Thanks,
Phil.
Pat. Good morning. Good morning, advisory board members. Glad to be here today. This will be short and sweet. Just a few slides to cover on our ALPR proposal and our policy. And I think everyone knows what an ALPR system is. But just to make sure we're all on the same page, we'll cover that real quick. Probably spend most of the time on the slide on BAR's uses. We have a couple uses, near term as well as longer term, and then what and where is BAR's ALPR policy we'll close with. So with that, I think most folks know that an ALPR system really consists of either mobile or fixed camera that photographs a vehicle's license plate. And you know, for BAR's uses, it would be typically a fixed camera. And then optical character recognition, OCR software, is used to convert those images into alphanumeric characters of the license plate. You know, and at that point, we can go ahead and merge some of those records, say with the DMV records, to identify vehicle, model, year, make, and different characteristics about the vehicle. typical ALPR uses include electronic toll collection. Used to be, just going over the Golden Gate Bridge. I think all bridges now in California likely use strictly the ALPR system. With COVID, the collection booths have been shut down. So that's a big use. Another use is enforcing the traffic laws and traffic control. So I'm sure folks have seen cameras on signal lights. And then, our use is really related to this last piece, this automated emissions testing, remote sensing, which I'll talk about a little bit on the next slide. Those systems will go ahead and collect a snapshot of license plates, along with the emissions reading, so that again, we can kind of go back and really characterize the vehicle and the vehicle fleet that's being monitored and measured. So I mentioned that there's really two uses in my mind that BAR will need ALPR data for. I think Gary had mentioned in his presentation that roadsides were shut down in mid-March of last year, and a big piece of the smog check performance report that BAR produces annually is an analysis of those roadside data. And so this year coming up, we've been struggling with trying to figure out, okay, how best to supplement the data that we do have available. Typically, we use 2 years of data. So for the 2021 report, which is due July 1st of this year, we would typically use 2019 and 2020 calendar year data. But our 2020 calendar year data has been cut short, basically about a quarter of what we normally would get. And so we've been looking at different data sources for the next performance report, and that includes emissions of on-road vehicles measured with remote sensing devices. And that's more the traditional RSD, as well as a unit that the Air Resources Board has developed that they call their PEAKS unit. And as I mentioned previously, these RSD systems also collect ALPR data, which are then merged with DMV records to identify make, model year, and the like. And those data can also be used to identify smog check histories of tested vehicles. And so, one can go back and really evaluate things like station performance or previous smog check histories and how that influences, on-road emissions. So that's kind of a shorter term use of the data. Longer term, and once the roadside get back out, we've actually conducted some work of integrating an ALPR system in with the roadside inspection program. And our thought there is that we would have improved process to select vehicles for testing. Typically, we use what's termed as a stratified random sample technique to identify vehicles for testing. So if we get a preview of what the model year of the vehicle is, then we can better target those vehicles for testing. If we take basically a completely random set of vehicles off the road, they'll be heavily weighted towards newer vehicles, because older vehicles are driven less, there's fewer of them in the fleet. And as it turns out, we really need data on older vehicles. We typically will target older vehicles for our roadside program. And again, we take measures and do some analytical work to then sort of translate that into a typical fleet. But that's how this sort of longer term, the way we see the ALPR data being used is to really identify vehicles to improve our process for selecting vehicles in the roadside. So our policy is posted on our website, and state law requires public agencies that collect ALPR data to have a formal policy, and it's basically to ensure that procedures are in place to protect the data and concerns about confidentiality and the like. Our policy is based largely on the Air Resources Board and the work they did with their peaks unit to develop a policy to go ahead and sort of implement this state law. And so if you were to look at the two policies side by side, you'd see some, quite a lot of similarities. And ultimately, it's very similar to what we do with DMV data already. We all sign confidentiality agreements once a year to ensure that there are procedures in place to go ahead and protect those data. The policy is posted at our website, and there is a link on the meeting agenda, on the website. Where it's got the various presentations. There's for today. There's also a link to the policy, and we're not going to go into a lot of detail there. You can all take a look at it if you're interested, or if you have any questions. You can we can chat about it now, or here's my contact information. Be glad to follow up. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Phil. Any questions or comments from advisory group members? I do not see any hands raised, so I will say let's move forward with opening it up for public comment. Moderator, can you invite participation from the public?
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the Bureau Chief, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a public comment on this agenda item, please click on that icon with the question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. We're currently sharing instructions on the screen for your reference. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A feature and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator. It looks like at this time there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you, moderator.
All right, the Q&A panel is now closed.
All right, circling back with the advisory group members, I do not see any hands raised still. I think we'll close this agenda item.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pat. Thanks members.
Bill. Okay, as I said at the outset of the meeting, our next presentation, the Cash in the Can Outreach Program from Jennifer Zins, representing the the Car Care Council, also with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association. Jennifer is unable to join us today due to the storms and loss of power as a result of those storms. So we'll look forward to this presentation at our April advisory group meeting. Our next presentation is also outside of the Bureau of Automotive Repair. Joining us today, I'm very happy to have her joining us. I want to welcome her, Suzanne Davis with the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, here to give us an update regarding the motor vehicle brake friction materials law that you saw earlier in Lucy's legislative and regulatory update. So welcome and take it away. Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, and my name is Suzanne Davis. I work for the Safer Consumer Products Program at the Department of Toxic Substances Control. My presentation will provide a brief overview on the California Copper and Brake Pads law and regulations, along with an update on the key milestones that went into effect this year. And I apologize for the way my lighting is. It's kind of the way my house is. So The California Hazardous Materials Motor Vehicle Brake Friction Material Law, or as it's also known as the California Brake Pad Law, was enacted in 2010. The law has 3 milestones that limit the concentration of specific compounds. So in 2014, the first milestone went into effect, which limited the amount of cadmium and its compounds, chromium-6 salts, mercury and its compounds, lead and its compounds, and asbestiform fibers. This year, starting in January 1st, the second milestone went into effect, which restricts the amount of copper concentrations to less than 5%. On January 1st, 2025, the third milestone will go into effect, which further restricts the amount of copper concentrations in brake friction material to less than 0.5%. So, in order to implement the California Brake Pad Law, DTSC conducted rulemaking back in 2016-2017. And that rulemaking focused on the marked proof of certification, or also known as product labeling, certification requirements for the testing certification agencies and analytical laboratories, testing requirements and approved test methods, registration requirements for brake friction materials, and an extension process for the 2025 requirement. DTSC also worked with the Department of General Services Environmentally Preferred Purchasing Program to try to incorporate the law's requirements as part of their EPP vehicle purchasing checklist. DTSC has also worked with a variety of stakeholders and was able to establish one set of marking, testing, and registration requirements that the brake friction material manufacturers needed to comply with for both the California and state of Washington laws. We also worked with those stakeholders to develop a memorandum of understanding between the brake friction material and vehicle industry, the Environmental Council of States, and the US EPA. And this memorandum of understanding establishes the marking, testing, and registration requirements for the other 48 states that do not have a brake pad law. So in the regulations that were established, which are called the California Brake Friction Material Requirements, they became effective on January 1st, 2017, and can be found in the California Code of Regulations, Title 22, Sections 66.387.1 through 66.387.9. As part of today's presentation, I'm going to focus on the reporting requirements for the brake friction material manufacturers and the marked proof of certification. So, under our regulations and law, the brake friction material manufacturers are required to submit a signed self-certification form listing their registered products and the compliance level of A, B, or N. And later on in the presentation, I'll explain what those letters mean. The brake friction material manufacturers must also mark their products with the marked proof of certification and use a packaging logo. And the marked proof of certification was developed with the Society of Automotive Engineers, and the standard is J866-2012. We also worked with the brake friction material manufacturers must also register their products with a testing certification agency. And currently, the department only recognizes 2 organizations. One is NSF International, and the other one is the Automotive Manufacturers Equipment Compliance Agency, or also known as AMECA. And once that testing certification agency certifies the environmental code that's used for those particular products, they post it They post the certifications on their website. So on this slide, this is a generic representation of what a marked proof of certification would look like on a brake pad. So the first set of characters is the manufacturer ID. The second set of characters is the formulation ID, followed by the coefficient of friction, batch code, and the very last three symbols that you'll see is the environmental compliance marking. The manufacturer ID, formulation ID, and environmental compliance marking are required as part of the marked proof of certification. And the environmental compliance marking will always be at the end of the string of identification codes. And so that environmental compliance marking consists of the compliance level, which is A, B, or N, and a 2-digit number, which represents the date the brake friction material was manufactured. In this example, the 16 represents 2016. On this slide, we're providing a variety of locations that are acceptable for this environmental compliance marking location. And the figure was taken from a guidance document developed by the State of Washington Department of Ecology called the Guidance for Marking Brake Friction Material. California and Washington State use the same type of marking requirement, and so we share our guidance documents. On this slide, which may be of interest to your customers and to some of you, is a table that shows the certification mark that will appear on the package for any brake pads sold in the state. And along with the effective date for that particular environmental compliance level, and a description of what that environmental compliance level means. So back in January 1st, 2014, any new vehicles made on and after that date that were sold in California and the replacement brake pads need to meet the A-level compliance, environmental compliance level. And that certification mark will have 3 leaves with one of the leaves marked black. And that A-level certification means that the compounds in that brake friction material contain less than 0.1% cadmium in its compounds, and also 0.1% of the following compounds: chromium 6 salts, lead in its compounds, mercury in its compounds, and asbestofoam fibers. Starting this year, any new vehicles and the replacement parts must be equipped with a brake friction material that has an environmental compliance level of B. And that B level means that the brake friction material contains less than 5% copper by weight, and it also meets the requirements listed for the A-level component or A-level compliance level. When January 1st, 2025 comes along, there will be a environmental compliance level of N, and it will have 3 black leaves as for its packaging logo. And that N stands for, symbolizes that the copper concentration for that particular formulation will contain less than 0.5% copper, and also meets the conditions for a level A compliant material. And only new vehicles and their replacement parts sold on and after 2025 would need to be equipped with those type of brake pads. And just a kind of a brief definition on what the Testing Certification Agency is. It's a third-party testing organization that's used by the brake friction material manufacturers. and they have an accredited lab program. The certification agency requirements that are used to certify those brake friction materials are approved by the Department of Toxics. And the certification process for brake friction material is a very simple process. There's only 3 steps. One, the brake friction material manufacturer must test their particular brake friction material using SAE standard J2975 2013. Once they've performed their tests, they'll submit their results to a testing certification agency who will certify the environmental compliance level that they've listed on their self-certification form. Once that has been approved, those testing certification agencies will post that up on their individual websites. The mark proof of certification that is registered with those testing certification agencies will then be marked on the brake pad, whether it's on the edge or actually on the back plate. And so one of the questions that we have that's come up is, if I'm a consumer or auto repair shop, what do I need to do to comply with this law? If, in regards with the January 1st, 2021 restriction that just went into effect, we just want to iterate that consumers are not required to replace their brakes before the end of the useful life for those brakes to comply with the law. So you don't simply need to replace the brakes just to comply with the law. However, when the brakes do need to be changed out, if the vehicle was made on and after January 1st, 2021, those replacement brakes need to be certified as a level B brake friction material. If the vehicle was manufactured prior to that, there are some exceptions to this rule. On this table, we're trying to show you which type of environmental compliance level brake friction material needs to be used based off of the year the vehicle was manufactured. So if the vehicle was manufactured before January 1st, 2014, there is a sell-off provision within the law that allows the use of not certified material until December 31st, 2023. After that, the vehicle would need to use brake friction materials that are certified for level A. If the vehicle was made between January 1st, 2014 but not on and before January 1st, 2021, you could use the compliance level A material, and if available, you could also use a B or N material. If the vehicle is made on and after January 1st, 2021, that vehicle must use a level B compliance level. It can also use a level N, since that's a more environmentally friendly formulation. Just to reiterate what I've shown in a previous slide, we have been working with the Department of General Services to try to incorporate these restrictions into the vehicle purchasing standards. We've also been working with them to try and get some type of points for vehicles that have a more environmentally friendly brake friction formulation used. So if the vehicle, the minimum required under the law and regulations is B and the vehicle is equipped with N, we'd like to see them get some type of credit in the environmental score that's similar to what's used for fuel efficiency or greenhouse gases. Again, just a list of the stakeholders we've been working with over the years. And the next steps that we'll be doing under this program is we're going to continue focusing on education, outreach, and compliance assistance to industries and the public, and continue working with the industry, other state agencies, and stakeholders in implementing this law. If you have any questions or like to find additional information, we do have a web page set up. And specifically, we have a frequently asked questions section that has specific questions that have been brought up by the auto repair industry. We also have an e-list if you'd like to get periodic notices along with other documents. And so if you have any other questions or comments, please feel free to contact myself or my colleague, Melissa Salinas, and I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate the presentation and your appearing before the advisory group today. We do have a hand raised already. Gary Conover with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association.
Good morning, Suzanne. Gary Conover with CAWA, and I want to tell you I very much appreciate all the communication you and your staff had with me around the first of the year. If we could go back to slide 12. I would consider this to be a reference to what we talked about was the inventory reference. Our membership is more inventory driven, and the questions that I posed to you were what products can we replace cars with based on our inventory, and when do we have to switch to the next level, speaking of A, B, and N. So this slide to my membership is the most important slide I think that you've presented, and I just want to make sure this is the inventory dates that we were referencing in our communication.
Yes, so the dates that are at the top of the slide reference the date that the vehicle is made. So under the law, there are two exemptions, and they're based off of the date the vehicle is manufactured, not the date that the brake friction material is manufactured. So if the vehicle was made, let's say January 1st, 2013, it could use an unmarked brake friction material, but there is a stipulation in the law that there's a sell-off period, and that will sunset on December 31st, 2023. After December 21st, 2023, if you don't have any more of that unmarked material, then the compliance level A material should be available and can be used. And it seems like from the brake friction material industry, they didn't really think that that was going to be an issue. That before we even, this was several years ago, back in 2012, they thought that most of their brake friction material would easily comply with the compliance level A. So, but there is that sell-off period. And all I wanted to do is just stress that presently, and this is specific for any new vehicles that are being sold in the state on and after January 1st, 2021. The brakes on those new vehicles need to have a B-level brake pad on it, and their replacement parts need to be a B-level brake pad. That's the only thing that will be allowed. Anything older than that, anything before January, if it was made on December 31st, 2020, you can use an A, but not after January 1st, 2021.
And at what date can you not use A or B and only N?
and only N, that would be on January 1st, 2025. Any new vehicles, I'm stressing the word new vehicles, so any new vehicle sold in California on and after January 1st, 2025 will need to have N-level brake pads. So the two exemptions I'm talking about, they have no sunset date presently. So if the vehicle's still on the road and you want to replace your brakes on a 2019 Impala, or actually probably a 2010 Impala, you could use an A-level brake friction material on it, or even unmarked if you still have, not in 2025, but an A-level brake friction material on it easily. There's no sunset date for it, so that exemption's out there.
Let me get into the weeds a little bit deeper.
Okay.
If I purchase a car that is required to have an N stamp on it, and what would that be, January 1st, 2025? And 5 years later, I need to replace that brake pad, and my brake service technician still has a B marking inventory left. Will that be allowed to be used?
No.
No. Okay.
Because it was made on and after January 1st, 2025. It's the date the vehicle. So the law is fairly specific. For the older vehicles, there's that latitude, but not for the new vehicles. So it's really very dependent on the vehicle manufacture date.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that, Gary.
That's all right. It becomes a little bit complicated when you compare the vehicle to existing inventory and replacement parts.
And we tried to come up with a diagram on our website. It's an Excel spreadsheet where we were listing the date that the brake was manufactured versus the year the vehicle was manufactured, and trying to show kind of this gradation on what was allowed, and it was color coded. And we were using that during our rulemaking process to really try to communicate the subtleties of these exemptions to the vehicle and brake friction material manufacturers, really to the vehicle manufacturers, because that's who it's going to affect.
Okay.
And we still have those up there on our website, and I can forward you the link after this presentation if you're interested.
Great, thank you.
We have another hand raised, Suzanne. Thank you very much, Gary, for the question. Before we take that question from our next advisory group member, I wanted to mention that we have a biannual publication that reaches our automotive repair industry. Our spring edition, we're already working on stories. This would be an excellent topic to include in the next publication if you're up to the task, Suzanne, and would welcome that opportunity to get further information out to the industry. We would certainly be in support of that.
Yep, I would be happy to do that. So just send me the format I need to follow, and we can do that.
I'll have someone reach out to you from our office.
Great.
Thank you. And I saw a question from George Ritz with the California Automotive Teachers.
Thank you, Pat. It's not a question. I just encourage you to reach out to the automotive educational programs throughout the state at the community college and high school and include them in your educational outreach. And as Pat said, we have a biannual newsletter, the California Automotive Teachers, and would look forward to having you publish something in that newsletter as well.
You know, I was wondering, are you going to have the spring California Automotive Teachers training forum that maybe this is an opportunity for BTSC to participate in? I know we do.
Yeah, we are planning to have our spring conference in April, but it's going to be virtual.
Sure.
hopefully in the fall, with teachers getting vaccinated, we'll be able to do an in-person CAT conference in the fall.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, please, we'd be happy to write something up for your newsletter also. So just.
Okay, I'll send you the editor's info.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Good idea, George. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments from the advisory group? Gary, you still have your hand up? Another question or comment, or just left over from the last time?
I'm trying to figure out where the tiny little hand to put down is.
This is the moderator. If you have that participant panel open on your right-hand screen, it should be down at the very bottom. Once again, it is very small. Yep, you found it. Yay. It's very difficult to see.
I think you need to take into consideration the age of most people on this call.
I see Lou Anapolsky has his hand raised. Lou, welcome.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm good. I have my question answered. Thank you.
Okay, great. Other questions or comments for Suzanne? Not yet. Let's open it up for public comment. Moderator, if you would please open it up for us to allow the public to participate.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the Bureau Chief, I have opened up the Q&A panel for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this agenda item, please click on that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. We're currently sharing instructions on the screen for your reference, and I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator again. It looks like at this time there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, moderator, thank you very much.
Right, Q&A panel is now closed.
Any other questions or comments? Lou, your hand's still raised. Are you sure? No questions, no comments?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to close this agenda item. I want to thank once again Suzanne Davis from the Department of Toxic Substances Control for joining us today, and we'll do everything we can as the Bureau of Automotive Repair to coordinate outreach activities with her office to this industry. So this was the first step forward in doing that, and appreciate that. Oh, I do have one last question. On our legislative update, we had a slide on this, as you saw, Suzanne, and there was something, what's coming on January 1, 2025? And I didn't know if Gary picked that date for a certain reason or just kind of coincidentally, but there's something related to copper on that date. I can't remember the slide exactly. And maybe you can educate us on that.
That's the third milestone that's in the actual California brake pad law. So on January 1st, 2025, the law will restrict the copper concentration in brake friction material that's used on new vehicles and the replacement parts to 0.5%. So we're going to go from 5% down to it has to be less than 0.5% copper.
And I see it on your slide, on your presentation. It's on slide 4 at the bottom. I just missed it. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you. Thought it was
no problem.
Good to repeat it at least. All right, we will close the agenda item for this. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
And I think I saw one of those missing cats crossing through Dave Kusa's video just a minute ago.